Yeah, so it's a great place to live. So I grew up back in the Summit neighborhood back there. Lots of kids back there. It feels very safe back there. The reason why it's such a great place is the same reasons why it was such a great place when I grew up. And the reason that I've just fully invested into myself in Fort Thomas right now is because I just like to preserve that. I want that for my kids and future generations. You grow up in Fort Thomas and you think it's this like small little sleepy bedroom community, and in actuality it's the cultural center of Campbell County. I see my role as being a cheerleader, being that steady hand and a resource for our community more than anything. Media has sort of abandoned Fort Thomas. The bigger outlets really can't monetize here. We're still trying to figure out how to monetize and make the media business part work. I've always been sort of at the core been interested in telling stories. It's not about me. I always get thanked. Thank you so much for doing the things that you do in the community. Thank you for telling our stories. And it is a labor of love, but it's made me become a better listener. When I looked at getting into Fort Thomas City Council, I did it because I felt like when I would go to city council meetings, it didn't always seem like city council was doing more than they were supposed to be doing. Really, it's about serving the residents here. And once you do that, and once you sit in that role and sit in that seat in an official capacity, I think it opens it up more to bringing more people to the table. And I just felt like with my skill set to be able to touch so many lives and to be able to communicate on a broader scale, that it was a logical step for me.
Fort Thomas City Council is the legislative branch of government at the city level. They make the laws. There are 6 members of council, and they get together periodically, about once a month, and decide, what decisions are going to be made for the betterment of Fort Thomas. Since he's a member of the news media, and now he's a member of council, I think that there might be some concerns that there might be a conflict of interest there.
Well, I just thought when that all happened, I thought it was a little weird. I looked at that since about 1982. I started out in paste up in the art department at a couple publishing companies. But actually I got started doing an underground newspaper at Highlands High School. So anyway, you could say I started in high school. I guess about 36 years altogether. And I'm still working on a magazine for an association.
My name is Rob Robinson. I'm the owner and the creator of the Fort Thomas Antique and Design Center. I met him on Small Business Saturday in 2014. I was just opening. I'd been open like maybe 2 weeks. And we advertised for the first couple of years on Fort Thomas Matters, his website.
The website's got like 1 million little advertisers down the side, everybody in town. So I thought, well, this is a little strange, that he would be running for city council. I'm sure in his mind was perfectly logical.
I knew that there would be some question whether or not, what I was going to do in taking my step into city council would be appropriate.
My name is Pat Lance. I'm a resident of Fort Thomas. like everybody else, I'm concerned about the electoral process and fairness in voting. I saw that fairness sort of lacking, which is why I filed this complaint. Well, as it stands right now, anybody who has a business can turn that business into a campaign vehicle, which is what Mr. Collier did. He used his business, this website, to announce his candidacy, which is just patently unfair to other candidates because other candidates did not have that vehicle to make a similar announcement. And what he did was he cleared the field. Other candidates saw that and said, well, you know, it's hopeless. I've got a guy who buys ink by the barrel, or bandwidth by the barrel, if you will, and I'm going to run against a guy who has an unfair advantage. So they may have been a little disheartened by this whole thing.
You get a lot of instant name recognition. And a lot of people, when they go to vote, they're just going to vote for a name they're familiar with.
I do know that he is the only news organization that covers Fort Thomas. To be a legitimate news organization, you have to have certain guidelines and certain strictures that you follow. And there is no such structure within Fort Thomas. It is all Mark Collier. And he decides what gets printed and what doesn't get printed.
We're not just an alternative to Fort Thomas News anymore. We are the source for Fort Thomas.
The problem is, it's not really a real news organization because it's really his just personal opinion of what he wants to publish. In some cases it might be a sports story, in other cases it might be an auto accident. In this case it was about politics, about himself. More importantly, I think the voters were disenfranchised because the voters, when they study the candidates, they go online, right? That's what everybody does. Anybody who did a little research on this campaign and said, who do I vote for in Fort Thomas? Mr. Collier's editorial about himself would come up. So other candidates who were running, they did not get that exposure. They did not get those views. Mr. Collier did. So he gave himself an unfair advantage, which was unfair to the candidates and unfair to the voters.
If I felt like that was going to be an issue, I wouldn't have done it in the first place. I understand where my heart is. I know what my intentions are. I know the type of coverage that we do. It's not going to be something that will ever play into any of the concerns that people may have. Totally understand them. The optics of it do, look from a larger perspective like they should be questioned.
So many different businesses in town, especially the zoning and zoning changes. I just noticed that this Kitty's Corner up here, there's going to be a dance studio now. And I was just looking at the Fort Thomas Manor site, and there was a big explanation about how they changed the zoning so it wasn't residential, and now it can be a business. And it's like, there was that whole thing with the storage unit up there, and it's like, so what if the storage unit people are big advertisers of Mark Collier's, and they're going to try to influence, I don't know, it's just all kind of just didn't seem right.
I think having youth and having a balance of people on any civic organization or city council is a good thing. And with all of the newly elected members and bringing in a fresh perspective, it's good for the city.
Right now, I feel like, city council, especially the folks that have been there for a long time, they sort of have their go-to echo chambers. I think that our city council, our residents deserve more.
I think long term it's going to be good for the city. I think personally change is good, change is inevitable.
Maybe the next time will be somebody even more, influential, even though it's just a little website and just a little black and white publication, but I don't know.
If anything is inappropriate, I would expect residents, I would expect other city council members, I would expect the mayor to come out and say, here is where this is wrong. I think this is going to be a good thing for me. I think it's going to be a good thing for this city too. I want to get in and I want to help, and I want to tell stories and bring people together.
it just doesn't seem right. I don't, can he be completely objective? I don't know. Do people really care? I don't know.
But it seems to me that most people would be reluctant to speak out about this. And if they have, we don't know that, because Mr. Collier has a habit of deleting comments that he finds to be unfavorable. He has a habit of banning people from his website. So anything that's unfavorable, even if it was fair, would never see the light of day with Mr. Collier.
You're going to have to see how this unfolds. It's a 2-year term, and if people are unsure or unsettled about the way that this is playing out, they will have an opportunity to replace me in 2 years.